Now, before we bloody start, I'd like to say, before we start, I'm not in a very good mood. And I'll tell you that before we bloody start. I want a shit of a bastard day. The yovel's a shit-o bastard. And you're just passing through, are you? I went in the florist to get some flowers for my wife, and I said to the woman, I'd like a bunch of roses for my wife. She said, well, this is not a florist, it's a circumcision clinic. I said, you got flowers in the window? She said, what do you suggest we put in the window? Then I rung the newspaper. I said, I want to put an advert in the paper. They said, it's £1 an inch. Shit, I said, I got a 40-foot ladder for sale. Shit. And this morning, Denzils and Bertha came in my place this morning. Jethro, he said, my wife have got out the bath and she's slipped on the tiles. And she's done the splits and she's gone down. And her fanny stuck to the tile. Like a plunger. He said, will you come in and give me a hand to get her up? Well, we couldn't move her, see? Well, we could lift her up, but her fanny wouldn't leave go. I said, look, I'll go in and get a hammer and chisel and knock the tiles up and get her up, and we'll get the tile off after. Well, when I got back, he was playing with her tits. I said, what are you doing? Well, he said, I thought if I could get her a bit sexed up, I may be able to slide her. Over to where the tiles are cheaper. You know, the silly bugger, he swallowed a glass eye. And I said, well, don't worry, after a week, it'll go right through you in a week. I said, keep a watchful eye out. I said, see, well, I seen him yesterday, and I said, have you passed that glass eye? He said, not yet. I said, well, drop your knickers, I'll have a look up your asshole and see if I can... I got looking up his asshole. Yeah, I said, I can't see it. He said, well, that's funny, I can see you. Little job of it. A woman rung me today. She said, Jethro, you remember you met me 3 months ago at a party? I said, no. She said, you did. You took me home from the party and we had sex in a cornfield and you said I was a very good sport. Shit. She said, well, I'm pregnant, I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to kill myself. I said, Christ, you are a good sport. He is a good sport. But we was in the bed and an ex-convict broke into our room and he held me and my wife at gunpoint. Now my wife is a big woman. She's a fat-ass bastard woman. No matter where you're sitting in a room, you're sitting next to her. I climbed over in bed to answer the telephone and burnt my ass on the light bulb. Big woman. Well, this bugger, he got us out the bed and he held us at gunpoint and he tied us up on the bed, me and my wife. I said, he's a very desperate man, dear, and he's been locked up for months. He's going to want to shag you in a minute for certain sure. I said, look, if it's going to save our life, lie back and make out you enjoy it. She said, well, I'm glad you think that way, because I've just heard him say he thinks you're really cute. But things I've picked up. And last year, I'm very lucky, I went on a holiday on safari with Denzil Pemberthy, and we got in the jungle. I said, Denzil, look at that lion with one eye. He said, where? And I pick up a brick and threw at this lion. I hit him right between the bloody eyes. I said, Denzil, run for Christ's sake, run for Christ's sake. He said, why should I run? You threw the brick. And there was a big sign up. It said, if you see a leopard, shoot him on the spot. But we bloody starving, see? We got lost in the jungle. We was in there for a week. We bloody starving. I said, we'll have to eat a pygmy. Well, I catch a pygmy. I said, we put the chips on and put the pygmy. I said, put the bugger on the spit, and you wind the spit, but don't wind too fast. And I said, put all the chips, and we had the pygmy, and I said, don't wind too fast. Well, I went to get some more wood. When I come back, he's winding like hell. I said, what you doing? You're winding too bloody fast. He said, if I wind any slower, the bastard will eat all the chips. But little Dublin. I'll be all right in a minute. But my poor uncle have died since I seen you, and I went down to the funeral director and I said, my uncle, I said, he's died. He said, I can see he's dead. He said, what did he do before he died? I said, he just went like that and fell over. But I said, uncle always wore a black suit, but he died in a blue suit. The pity, really. But he always wore a black suit. I'd like for him to be buried in the black suit, really. Well, he said, I'll put him in the black suit. I said, if you do that, that would be nice. And he said, I'll get a suit and put on. Well, I went to see him Thursday before they screwed him down, and he looked bloody good. He looked lovely in black, Uncle did. See, I said, well, that's lovely. That looks a lot better. I said, how much was the suit? He said, well, it won't cost you nothing. Because the day after you was here, a man came in with his father, and now he died in the black suit, and he wanted the blue suit. So he said, I just swapped the heads.
Hey, you!
What do you want?
Who built this bloody wall?
I did. What's the matter with it?
Well, it's the worst bloody wall I've ever seen in my life. You built it.
I built it straight with that tree.
Well, I can tell you one thing, you're bloody off the site, you're sacked. This is bloody terrible. I've never seen... I've been in the building trade for 40 years. This is the worst wall I've ever bloody seen.
There's worse walls than that on this site. You don't realise what shit you're employing. This is good. I can show you a worse wall than that.
Well, if you can show me a worse wall than this, you got your job back, but I've never seen just a bloody wall like it.
You come with me then, short ass.
Oh, yeah, little bastard. Bloody wife. My bloody job's at stake here for bloody people. What are you doing?
A worse bloody wall than that.
You show me a worse wall than that?
Yeah, that's bloody good. And what I can show you.
Russian.
You come here. Look at that. Look at that. Look at there. Look. Look at that. Look. You come here. Look at that. Look at that there. Look. Over there. Look. Over that. Hey.
Well, that's bloody terrible.
That's better than that. That's better than that.
Well, you're right.
That there. That's better than that. That's a bloody lash up.
Well, you're quite right. Well, I'm a man of my word. You got your job back.
Yeah, I saw you.
That's bloody terrible, that is. I've never seen a bloody back.
Look at that. Look.
Well, who built this bloody wall?
I did.